What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this episode of MicroStudio. I'm your host, Garen Belaney. Today, we have a public speaking master in the studio. Please welcome Heather Morrison to the show.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Oh my God, I love the studio noise.
That's what I'm saying, in front of a live audience
I've
today.
been missing this my entire life, I think.
This is something that's very new in Saskatoon. You are the fourth guest in this home studio, so it's a very unique experience. Not a lot of people are going to experience something like this. So, welcome. You're the biggest celebrity that's been in this studio.
I'm sorry for you then.
Listen, baby steps. We're working our way up. We have an A-list celebrity in Saskatoon here. So, MicroStudio is a media agency where we help you build your professional brand through video. So, if you are watching this on YouTube, watching on the replay, please put your comments in the chat. Heather and myself will review the comments periodically throughout the year, and then we'll answer them accordingly for you. So, of course, we'll dive into this. We got 20 minutes to dive into public speaking, some skill sets that we can build as far as getting past the fear of public speaking. We have in the audience that are some new viewers who don't know who Heather is yet. So introduce yourself. Who is Heather Morrison?
Okay. My background's in theater. That's what I got my degree in. I worked in theater for a long time. Kind of fell into broadcasting. It was one of those things where someone actually just handed me a card and was like, I think you have a voice for radio, which I now realize is a huge insult. Or face for radio. Never mind. Okay. So I started working in radio, and then what happens with that is that they send you out to do these community events. And I'd always, with theater, I was fine being a character on stage in front of people. With radio, talking to a mic, 6,000 people, but no one can see me, I was perfectly fine. And then when I got up in front of people, as a public speaker and I was being myself, I completely crumbled. I had all these problems. And that went on for like a year. It was really horrible. And I realized I had to get myself over that issue. And I did. And then I noticed that so many other people have it. So I started solving that problem for other people. And then I just basically can just take my career as like tumbling down a hill for the next few years. So lots of different broadcasting. I do sports reporting. I've been on TSN. I've worked for CBC. But now full time, what I do is I'm a public speaking coach, and I work with people all over the world to get them over their fear of public speaking.
Yes, the fear of public speaking is a huge thing. And I wasn't joking, everybody, as far as being a celebrity. I believe we met at a Rattlers game or some case, but she's phenomenal on camera. And you wouldn't think that she ever had a fear of public speaking. But you said, again, you got through these barriers going through that. So what was the moment, or what kind of components did you put to get yourself past this fear of public speaking that so many people are challenged with?
What happened for me is that I was researching, how do I do this? And I think a lot of people still actually go through the same process. So you Google it. And then if you're looking to get better at public speaking, what you're going to get is a lot of tips about stand like this, speak at this volume, speak at this pace. And what clicked for me, or the thing that I was able to put together 10 years ago when I got myself over this problem, is that working as an actor, we never tried to create or mimic an outward result. We always tried to find what's the internal process that gives that external result. So instead of trying to look angry and like mimic the actions of an angry person, we would try to do something that somebody wasn't letting us do, and that would create natural frustration in ourselves, and then the outer result would be there. So I thought, okay, all this advice, it's just trying to get me to mimic a confident person, but I want to feel confident. I want the internal processes that are going to get me there. So then I just have to show up and be. And then all those things that they want me to do, like gesture well or speak at the right volume and pace, those will just come naturally because I have the right internal cues. So I went back to my performing arts. I went back to like psychology and neuroscience and did a bunch of research. And so that's how I got over it myself. And I think that that's how I try to help people today, is I try to help them learn those internal processes they're going to make the difference for them.
Yeah, it's self-confidence when it comes to public speaking, but also the fear of just speaking in front of an audience. We talked briefly about the criticism that we often face with ourselves. We're our biggest critics when it comes to just anything in life, not necessarily public speaking. So is there a component of being, I guess, critical of yourself that is important to be mindful of when you're trying to build this confidence into public speaking?
Absolutely, 100%. Nobody who comes to me for help has amazing inner self-talk. The way that you talk to yourself is one of the 5 pillars that are skill sets that I try to teach people with public speaking. But I'll tell you something about this that's going to help your listeners and even the people that you work with that have to do video is that we have something called our working memory, which is essentially our focus. And it can only hold a small amount of information at one time. Like yours is probably actually a little overloaded right now because you're producing this, you're trying to listen to me, and you're trying to come up with your next question. That's a lot for your working memory, I would say, even like almost too much, except you have some experience in this. So that's helping you.
Yeah.
So what happens when we're public speaking is that what we want what's in our working memory. We want what we're thinking about and focusing on to be what we're talking about. But it's often not because we're thinking things like, can people notice that I'm nervous? Oh, I feel like an imposter, or if I seem nervous, people are going to judge my capability at my job. So and that has to do with that self-talk. So all these thoughts are coming in when we're speaking, and then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy because it interferes with our ability because those thoughts are in the working memory, not what we want to be in the working memory. So a lot of people will come to me and say, I can do it one-on-one, but I can't do it in front of a crowd. And that's the issue. So there's a lot that goes into clearing up that working memory. But I wanted to say this relates to your clients because do you notice how people get so wooden and stiff when they're on camera?
Always.
And it's because they're just overwhelmed by the information, and that's what's coming in their working memory, and they're thinking about that, and it's so hard for them to just connect and talk to somebody.
Yeah, I do feel the tech plays a role when I'm working with clients. They can speak to people, and then once they have a camera in their face, they automatically they just freeze as far as going into that. So there's some psychological components to that. Self-talk is very important when you're going into public speaking. Was there a key moment when you started public speaking where you realized, hey, I'm starting to get better at this, or I can start teaching people how to start implementing these components? You talked about the 5 pillars. I don't know if you wanted to dive into that as well.
The big one for me is I remember I was emceeing an event and the nerves came like they always do. And for me, it's butterflies in my stomach. And I just thought, okay, you're here. All right. So I was no longer my nerves. I was me and I had some nerves. And that separation was hugely important. Now it's very rare that I get nervous, but I still do because I continue to push myself farther and farther in my career, but I know how to manage them. And that's really the key is that if we want to progress in our public speaking, we actually just progress in our ability to manage the challenge of public speaking.
Yes. I want to dive into the component of the challenge because when we were briefly speaking, I was telling Heather how I had a public speaking event about 2 to 3 weeks ago, and the butterflies that you talked about was flowing in my stomach. But as an athlete, I enjoyed it. It was almost, it's not a sense of comfort, but it was a very similar feeling that I had when I started playing like a basketball game, or just the game is about to begin and then you start performing. And you talked about it again, you separating yourself that I am me, and this is just a component of the whole situation as well. So when someone's on stage, if they're experiencing this issue with butterflies or this scarcity, do you have a task, or do you have some sort of way to help them calm down, or a way to be able to just manage that?
A big part of it is your own belief system. So what you believe will happen to you when you're public speaking. And this is when people come into my program, we spend a lot of time identifying what they think is going to happen to them. So a lot of people have misguided beliefs about public speaking that people will not think that they're credible at their job because they're nervous, which just isn't true. People understand that public speaking's hard. So they're fine if you're a little bit nervous. It makes sense to them. And also they're taking in your whole entire character. They're not just going to take one little piece of behavior and be like, I don't know. They're good at everything else, but that was kind of not as great. So now I don't think that they're good at their job, right? So there's a lot of misguided beliefs. But the big thing that you did in that moment is that you felt the stress come, but that stress in your mind was labeled to you as a challenge as opposed to a threat. And that's where those beliefs come into play. So there's a couple things that people can do. And actually I'm doing a 10-day challenge at the beginning of January for public speaking. And one of the days, this is what we're going to do, is we're going to work on We're going to work on switching our mindset to think about public speaking as a challenge, not a threat, because there's all this research about how the physiological response in our body is different.
Mm.
And a challenge response is easier to manage. I'm a runner. I did a 50K ultra marathon last year. And the thing about it was that there's a big difference of choosing to run 50K. And on the other side of that is a banana and a whole bunch of feel good feelings about like, I accomplished this. Besides, that's a challenge response in my body versus if I don't run over this mountain, my family's not going to have food, or like we're in this plane crash and I need to get help. That's a threat response, right? Like there's something that's at loss that we could lose as opposed to that we could gain. And a lot of people think about public speaking as I'm going to lose something. I'm going to lose my reputation or my credibility, which really also ties directly into our livelihood, right? Like, our brand, our personal brand is tied to our livelihood. And so that's why it feels like there's so much at stake. But that's just a misguided belief that can be changed.
That is very interesting as far as, again, it's going back into the mindset and just the thought process and looking at it as a challenge rather than something that's going to crumble your career or anything like that. I do find that we create this image in our brains that we're getting judged and we're getting critiqued, when in reality, it's people just want to see you succeed. I feel that they're not being overly critical. They may be to a point, but I would say the vast majority of people want you to perform well on stage or want to have a good experience when it comes to that.
They absolutely do, because you know what? It's their time and attention. I always ask people when I do a talk, I said, did anybody come here today hoping that I would be terrible?
That's a good one.
It's like, no, because they have to sit there. They want you to be good. I don't like to say to people, you're not going to be judged, because some people might. And that is just a discomfort that you have to accept comes along with public speaking. But really, that discomfort is so much more or less than the pain of not going after what you want in life. That's way more painful than, someone might judge me, but they don't even know me.
Very true. The what ifs is what's going to keep us up at night. It's not going in and actually doing something. Even if you fail, even if you completely brutal, at least you went out and did it, and then you can actually improve with that. And I want to talk about that as well, especially with your background. You're in sports, you understand the world. With me, I look at a lot of my film, and I even look at these podcasts, and I look at how I speak and ways to improve of yourself. So is there a way to be able to critique yourself and be judgmental of yourself to the point where it's positive and it's not crumbling your emotions as a person?
Are you having a problem with reviewing your film?
I think anytime you watch yourself, there's a little bit of cringe component to it. But as being in the basketball world and just having the experience of like you have to watch film and being able to see yourself, I find sometimes too, the terminology and the way I speak, I'm like, I could probably cut that out. So it's not really judgment of myself. It's just trying to be a better speaker.
Yes. So if you're like, I call it cringe watching, where you just watch yourself and the whole time you're like, I'm terrible. So I love that you brought up film for sports, because that's so important. And I had a friend who was trying to get on an Olympic team, and part of his sport, which was skeleton. So you had to push the sled very fast. So he had to work on his sprint. I remember watching him examine 4 seconds of sprinting and like every single little piece of that film about like what his ankle could be doing better. And I thought I could never look at myself like that, because I would be like, oh, look at that fat on my belly, and like my hair looks funny when I do that, and who did my eyebrows? Anyways, like I would just tear myself apart. But I was so impressed by that. And I do think when you can get to that level of complete non-attachment and complete non-judgment of yourself and just look for improvement, it's great. Most people can't do that. So what I recommend is just watch your clips or listen to yourself speak, but just look for one thing that you want to improve. So, or even just thinking about it after in your mind, go, what went well? Give yourself lots of compliments first. Don't miss out on that part. It's important. And then go, what didn't go so well? Why didn't it go well? And what's my plan to improve? And then just leave yourself alone. I did a broadcast the other day and I completely bombed on my last hit.
So she says. She's very modest.
But I had to go, okay, the majority was good. The majority about that whole broadcast, I felt good. I don't have to go, the whole thing was ruined because I did one bad hit. I know exactly why that hit wasn't good, and I'm gonna make a different decision next time. So now I learned that if I'm trying to come up with something in the moment, ask to do a voiceover, don't agree to be on camera when you're not ready. If you need to be reading off something, don't try to give yourself 60 seconds to memorize it. It's not gonna go well, right? So that's just an example of holding myself with some really supportive self-talk, but then also pushing myself to improve, which I think is important.
I agree. And I think you pushing yourself just as your professional career, I would say probably in the last 5 years, you've been making great strides just as far as public speaking and just, again, your brand in the city in itself, it's very well respected. And I think about my audience that are watching, there's a lot of young entrepreneurs, young professionals that are saying, hey, I have an eye for keynote speaking or I want to get on more stages. So do you have any advice for someone that says, I'm ready to get on stages, I just don't know how to get more speaking gigs?
Yeah, and thank you for what you said about my brand. That's very kind. I really love this city, and I've been honored to be a part of some really cool things for a long time. I'm also really glad that I grew up when like cell phones weren't around to film everything that I did.
That's
So,
fair.
I've really matured as well in the past 5 to 10 years. So, what I would say is if you are wanting to get into this, what you have to do is you have to establish yourself as the authority in that space. And you can do that by social media marketing. So, this was actually when I launched my business, I worked with a business coach named Mark Morris, and he helped me do this, which was to, like, just start talking about it. So, at first I was really shy and nervous to do it. So I actually just started on my own personal accounts, Instagram stories. And then when I got more comfortable with that, then I started a business page and I then started posting reels. And then when I got really comfortable with that, then I moved over and started to do LinkedIn. But I'm always talking about public speaking. And that was what makes people think of me for those opportunities. And I will also tell you that working in media, we'd have a subject that we would want to talk about or be on the show. And we would go, oh, we need an expert in this area. We need a guest, right? And we'd have to like rack our brains thinking of a guest, but just make it so easy for us. You don't have to call us and be like, hey, hey, media people, like you can call me. But if you're constantly going, I know about organic farming, here's blah, 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 blah. People who need an expert on organic farming are going to think of you. People that want organic farmers to speak at conferences are going to notice you and they're going to reach out. And then I would also just say it is so important that you speak about your speaking. So anytime you are not even paid to speak, like anytime you speak, you need to be sharing with people that you do that
Mm.
because then they're going to tie those two things together. Oh, she's an organic farmer and she speaks and teaches about it. Boom, there's those opportunities. So that's where I would start.
Okay, extremely helpful. And again, this is why I brought Heather in here because even myself, I'm taking notes as well as an expert with this. Are you born and raised in Saskatoon?
Yes.
Okay, so I often get flack on living in Saskatoon.
I know exactly why you get flack.
I know. I know
where you're from.
Yeah, yes. We won't talk about that. I get a lot of people even saying, for someone like stuff, why am I in a place like Saskatoon? So I do like to ask my guests, what is it that you love about Saskatoon as a city?
Wow. Okay. What a great opportunity. Because the thing is, what's been beautiful about my business is I now work with people all over the world, which I also think has been really important for me to expand my mindset and my perspective. But this city is so beautiful. I love the people in it and I love the accessibility of it. Not just that the farthest place that I drive is the soccer center and it's 18 minutes.
With traffic. Yeah.
With traffic.
Yeah.
I can do it 15 minutes on Saturday morning. But just the where else am I going to be like, I'm going to know by the time I was on the CBC, I was like, I knew the mayor, I knew the fire chief, I know the person who runs Persephone Theater. I know the CEO of the YMCA, right? Like, I just feel like you can get to know everybody who's moving and shaking and doing things. And you're just going to know people. And it makes it so cool because it also makes it really quick to get things done too.
I agree. with Saskatoon just being, it's a gem, it's a random place, but the power of the community. And even just for those who are watching, we are in a world now where it doesn't matter where you live as far as location goes. If you have a powerful brand online, and if you demonstrate yourself in a professional manner, you're going to get opportunities around the world. Very much like you said, we have, even myself, I have clients that are not based in Saskatoon and Saskatchewan, and they only see me because they see me on LinkedIn, they see me on Instagram, or they see me through video. And video is an amazing way to build trust because they can actually see your mannerisms, they can see how you speak, they can see how you act. It's just a lot more personal experience than just posting a photo on Instagram or on LinkedIn and then telling your thoughts. It's just a really good marketing component for that. So with you being in public speaking, we talked about some skill sets to be able to get over the fear. We've talked about how before you get on stage, how you can separate these anxieties and fears to be able to grow as an individual. Mm-hmm. I want to talk about just your public speaking course. And you said you have a workshop happening in January, but I do have a lot of people in the comments that are wanting to learn more about yourself, how we can get a hold of you, and just talk about your public speaking courses that you have coming up.
Absolutely. I'm going to say two things just based off how you respond to me talking about the city, because I'm going to regret if I don't say this. I also have the most amazing friends. Like, I have these little friend groups, and I just love them all so much. And I can't imagine giving up those people in my life. Like, so now I get to work all over the world, but I get to be around these amazing people that live here. Okay. The other thing about video and people getting to know you, it was so funny to me when I started hopping on sales calls when I first started my business with video marketing, and people would be like, "Oh, it's you."
Yes.
Or they would be like, "Oh, I feel like I already know you," and all that stuff. And the next step in my business is now my clients come in and they tell me, "I wanted to know you even better. I wanted some long form connection with you before I signed up for this course." So right now I just have short form. So long form would be the next step for me with video. Okay. So my course, my program, or how people can engage with me. First place, come to my Instagram page, Deliver Your Best. I post tips, I'm not daily anymore, but I'm definitely a few times a week, and I have 3 years of content too.
Yeah, she's regular. It's you can scroll through it. It's very, very valuable information for sure.
Tons there. But I have a challenge that I'm doing. It's a 10-day public speaking challenge. So I have a meditation for people, a bunch of worksheets to help them understand themselves better, and some mantras. And that's just going to give people that step up that they need for boosting their confidence in 2026. If you're in Saskatoon, I'm doing an in-person workshop. That's a fundraiser for the YWCA. That's on January 30th. It's called Prosperity with Purpose. You can Google that and you should be able to find it. And then I have my program, which is amazing. So this is for people who are professionals. They're good at their career, but public speaking is holding them back. And this program is a guarantee. Like, you will come out of it feeling confident, being able to say yes to opportunities. And also you'll have the skills and resources that you need in order to continue developing and working on your public speaking, as we all have to do, including myself.
I agree. And I was in one of your workshops a while ago. And I do want to mention, public speaking doesn't always have to be professional. You had a gentleman that was in the group who was putting together a speech for his daughter's wedding and needed some public speaking tips. So he joined this co-work. So it's not always about professional and working. It's very, very good, valuable. But again, it's just public speaking is such a broad range in general that I think it's extremely valuable that you should join a course like this as well. And Deliver Your Best is how we can find you on Instagram. And again, we ripped through this 20 minutes.
Flew by.
It goes by quick at MicroStudio. I'm telling you, the magic happens. We've got some long form for you as well. So we'll definitely, we'll get all of your Instagrams in the links below. And then again, if you are watching this, put your comments in the chat and we'll answer them. I can forward them to Heather as we move through this. So I appreciate you stopping in MicroStudio. This is very fun.
Yeah.
And Heather was an OG with MicroStudio. I believe it was at a basketball game where we gave you a MicroStudio kit.
I think that's how we met. You were like, you like DM me and you're like, "Are you going to be at the game tonight?" I was like, "Yeah." And then you just came up and handed me a MicroStudio.
You're right. This is what happened. It's poor Heather. I saw her. She posted something on LinkedIn. And I saw that she had her laptop on the table. I'm like, she's a public speaker.
No, not a table. Remember, it was a bin for my son's. It's like I keep my son's like creative supplies in, and I would have to dump it out and flip it over.
That's exactly what it was. You're right. It was a bin, and I'm like, oh my goodness. First of all, like we got to fix this out. So we got a MicroStudio, and this is exactly what you can use this for. Is you put your laptop on top of it, and then we talk about presenting. You're able to make a clear professional view of your audience, and you're not hurting your neck by looking down at the screen or anything like that. But she had the old logo, so we got her upgraded to the new MicroStudio logo. So we'll give you this as well as a thank you for stopping in.
Can I say something else about this product that I really love?
Please.
Is that I keep all my accoutrement in there in the box. So in the box, I have my ring light, I have my better camera, I keep the piece of my microphone that I need when I take it off. And so that way, if I'm about to do a call and I realize I look like garbage, I'll just like quickly grab my ring light. It's right there. So that's something else that I love.
Absolutely right. You can put all of your equipment when it's time to go grab your MicroStudio professional podcast kit in a bag. Thank you so much, Heather. This was amazing. I know it was quick. We'll have you in at another time as well. And for you, the viewers, MicroStudio is a media agency, and we help you build your professional brand through video. I know sometimes you might be scared to get on video, and I know sometimes you might be scared to build your professional brand, but I do have to let you know that
yesterday's price is not today's price.
Yesterday's price is not today's price. MicroStudio, when it's time to go grab your MicroStudio professional media agency. Thank you so much, Heather. Have yourself a wonderful day.
Thank you so much for having me. This is great.
Excellent. Boom.